when you have these conversations with pastors out there this past year, as compared to previous years, the most common conversations are about the topics of biblical preaching, guys talking about what they're going through, what they're preaching, what they're excited about. They want to talk about evangelism and some new ideas they're having to reach their community. They want to talk about prayer. I mean, everywhere we go, people have this new passion for prayer. I'm telling you, these things, they're not new things. Mm-hmm. They had just been placed on a back burner for so long because everybody was talking about controversial stuff or this or that or the
It's
other.
True.
We're not in that place anymore.
No,
we're back to where we need to be. And if our convention is based on preaching of the Word of God and on prayer and on evangelism and things like this, I'm telling you, we're at the precipice of the greatest years the CSBC has seen so far.
Yeah. It's really has been an incredible year to watch and to see and to get the report back of 120 people heard the gospel, through people that were trained. 120,000 people, right, heard the gospel through our people that were trained at our evangelism events and got a grant and then went and did an outreach event. That's just those numbers. That doesn't even count the numbers of all the churches that received SoCal grant money and they went and did outreaches, or the ones that didn't even come to our events and they did outreaches. So you can think of the just the impact that our churches are having this year.
And I'll go all the way to the fact, to all those churches out there that haven't filled out your ACP because you feel like you've got nothing to celebrate. You don't have these numbers. Guess what? The fact that you're still open is something worth celebrating, because we know for a fact churches are closing all over America every week. Yeah. You're still out there and you count.
Yeah.
You count.
Right.
Let's celebrate that, that you're still in the fight. You're still in the foxhole. Right. Fill out the ACP and we will celebrate you like we celebrate all these numbers.
Welcome to the GC Collective Podcast, brought to you by the California Southern Baptist Convention.
Welcome to the Great Commission Collective, brought to you by the California Southern Baptist Convention. With us today is our Executive Director, Pete Ramirez.
Woohoo!
And also we have Sarah Graham, the team leader of our Communications Department.
Hey!
And my name is Jason Robertson. I'm the team leader of Church Matters. We welcome you to our podcast today.
It's the end of the year review, fellas. It's time to look back.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
All the things.
All the above.
All the above, yes. I'm looking forward to Christmas. Have you had any tamales? It doesn't officially begin. The Christmas season does not begin until you have tamales.
So how many tamales have you gotten already?
He doesn't get them. He makes them.
I made them.
I'm waiting. That's why I was like, I'm waiting for my bag.
Do you make them for others too, or just yourself?
No, we just make them for ourselves. And the day we made them, I actually had 10 tamales.
On the day?
On the day.
Wow. That's extra Mexican.
And I've probably eaten about 20 tamales at this point.
Now, this recipe, is this handed down for generations, or is this your own recipe?
No, we go by feel.
It's right. It's a heart language.
Yeah. So my mom and I, we kind of just feel it out, and we taste and you go and you work on it. And so no, there's no recipe. Nothing's written.
So if I eat your tamales this year versus like next year, are they going to be the same?
They're going to be, I would say, 95% the same.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, there's always going to be a little bit different of consistency.
Really?
Just because there's not like a measured amount of how you make the tamales. But anyway,
it's an adventure.
It's an adventure.
You just made tamales way more exciting to me.
They really are.
Oh, man.
They really, really are.
Yeah.
But anyway, Christmas. Christmas is here, and I got to celebrate the biggest Christmas bash of December as of now. Today's the 9th, right? This is going to go out a little bit later. But we were with about 3,000 people, 4,000 people at California Baptist University with the CBU Christmas program.
Oh, yeah.
And they had 4 programs, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, dress rehearsal on Friday, they had 800 people at the dress rehearsal, a total of 15,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
At this Christmas program. It's their 7th year, and I would have to say that it is their best by far.
I was wondering if they had upped the ante this year. I mean, everyone was talking about it last year.
They don't ever do the same program. It's always different.
Original.
Always original, and they have original scores.
Well, they have the Bolin brothers, so they're set up for victory already.
Right.
So what was your favorite part?
Well, for me, the favorite thing was that at the second part of the program, they said, okay, we're not going to do all these Christmas carols that we typically hear and do and stuff like that. At the next part of the program, they said, we're going to go into the true meaning of Christmas. And they didn't just start at, Joseph and Mary. No, they went back to the beginning, to the Spirit of the Lord hovering over the waters and God creating light and how, God is the one that we worship and God is presented to us through Jesus Christ and the salvation that comes through Jesus. And so it was just amazing. I mean, if you did not go to church on Sunday, but you went to that program, you worshiped.
You went to church.
You really went to church. And the message was clear. We talk about CBU being a university that's committed to the Great Commission. I mean, they demonstrated through that program how committed they truly are to the Great Commission by making sure that this program that was just jam-packed heard the gospel, and so it was such a blessing to be there. I just can't thank God enough for the talent and the calling that he's put in the students and the teachers and the faculty and Dr. Ellis and all those that are there. Just great job, guys.
But what about the pyrotechnics and the fogs and the lasers?
Oh, yeah. and the choreography, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, just top notch.
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of friends that were in it. So I'm excited for them.
Yeah. I don't know how they make it better.
I know.
Every year, but they do.
So you might as well just get in line now for next year's tickets.
For sure. Because I don't know how they can do another performance. I mean, 4 is a lot.
Right.
And so, I mean, the kids in the choir were standing for almost 2 hours straight in place.
That's amazing.
So,
and it's so exciting to know that there's that much musical talent, singing talent, talent in the arts, talent in all of that. And all of that is part of our church family, spread out across California and of course, other places that these students come from. And to know that they're going back to their home churches with these types of experiences and training and vision and inspiration, what difference that's going to make in their local churches.
They had 400 people in the program.
Oh, yeah.
400.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I'm sure that probably includes the technical staff and all that stuff.
I'm sure.
So, 400 is amazing.
Yeah. Well, we're here to talk about we're here to look back, I should say. And, just to pull back the curtain for our listeners a little bit, last year when we did this, the podcast had just begun. And so we had a lot that we could talk about. Now we have a year of a podcast where we have kind of talked about everything. So what does a year in review look like? Jason had a really interesting idea.
Yeah. Pete, I was wanting you to think about this past year, but I wanted you to think about it in light of the previous years before this year. So we're sort of at the end of a time span, an era in Southern Baptist life. And things were going on nationally. Things were, we felt in our state and so forth. And so think about the last few years and compare it then to what you saw God do this year in the California Southern Baptist Convention.
It's kind of a big picture.
Yeah, real big picture. I've been in this role for about 2.5 years,
but you've been at the state longer.
But I've been here at the state longer, and I was the associate for 2 years. And during that period of time, one of the things that we long for, that we long to see in California, was the togetherness. And when things were not together, when it came to our family, but very much divided in so many areas, from doctrine to practice to where our monies go, and so many other things at a national level. California was just, we were longing to be united. And as a state convention, we started talking about better together, better
Right.
together, better together. And I mean, it wasn't unique to us, of course. It's in the scripture, and everybody seems to take that model. But really was a call that God had put in my heart. And I remember before I was elected, I talked to Sarah one time, and I talked to her, and I said, I really feel that God is calling me to do this. And she says, well, what is your calling? And I said, my calling is to bring things together, to bring people together so that we can do the Great Commission work. And Dr. Whitaker would say all the time, don't listen to the Chihuahuas, right?
Right.
Chihuahuas can't bite you. They can't really hurt you. I mean, they can bite you. They're not really going to hurt you. But don't listen to the Chihuahuas. Don't pay attention to the Chihuahuas. And it's so easy to get caught up in so many other things and to lose focus of the most important thing, and that's the Great Commission, and that we're called to do that together. And really what I've seen this year in particular is how our churches are doing that without us having to always be beating the drum of better together, better together, better
Right.
together. It's they're doing it. And not just our churches, but also our partners.
Right.
And really believing in this. Just an example. You led the pastors' conference 2 years ago.
Yes.
You were intentional about bringing in guys from California. Why? Why did you do that?
Well, we wanted to do two things. We wanted to highlight the fact that the state of California, the California Southern Baptist Convention, has a plethora of great biblical preachers. And I don't think many people know that. I think I just don't think that the preachers across our state have the recognition that others do that get highlighted in your on the internet or in various venues. But across the state of California, we've got some of the best biblical preachers you'll ever hear. So we wanted to highlight them. We wanted to bring preachers to our pastors' conference from every region, every area in California, as well as representing the different diversity of languages, cultures, and everything. Mm-hmm. And we had churches that were very large. We had one pastor preach, and his church only ran 10 people. And so, but they all came and they preached the word of God. And that was one thing we wanted to accomplish, and it worked. Many people came to us and said, I had no idea we had that many good preachers. I said, we got more than that. That's just a handful. Right. And then the second thing is, when we were looking at bringing in keynote speakers for a pastor's conference, a lot of times the traditional thing you do is you go look for those national known speakers.
Right.
But last year we did not want to bring a voice from outside the state of California to come in and speak. Even though he would have spoke truth, he would have still been an outsider voice for us. And when there was, we were also in a state, there was some turmoil and there was some controversies. In fact, everybody I looked at, you could find somebody really had a problem with. So I didn't even want to take the risk of bringing in any type of controversy into the state where we saw progression toward coming together and being better together. So why bring in an outside voice? Right. And so therefore, that was our second reason for doing what we did, is to not bring in someone from the outside. Right. And that gave us a greater opportunity to do pastors within the state. And so we ended up doing it 2 years in a row. And I don't know, the director of the pastors conference next year may do it for a third year. That'll be up to him. Yeah. But we have seen tremendous feedback from it.
Yeah. Well, and the focus of both years, I mean, not alone. I mean, speaking about, the importance that, one, you're not by yourself. Two, we're here with you. Again, the better together, right? That was 2 years ago. This year is doctrine's important, and this is what we stand on. And let's talk about the Baptist faith and message.
Yes.
And the first state convention that even would touch talking about the Baptist faith and message. And they all did such a wonderful job. But again, I mean, that's one aspect. Another aspect, I mean, I just got to spend a day with President Adam Grossa.
Yes.
Our new president at Gateway. We know Gateway is a national agency, but we claim them ours,
Yep.
right? One, because he's got good hair, but we claim him ours. We did the podcast with him previously, and you heard in that podcast. If you haven't, you need to go to it. But you heard his heart. A California born.
That's the key.
The first
He's from
California
here.
born,
Yeah.
right, guy?
He's not an outside voice.
That cares about California so much that this is one thing he told me, and I hope I'm okay. I'm okay in saying this. He is spending intentionally more time preaching in California churches than he is going to churches outside of California,
Wow.
because he understands the importance of the seminary here.
Yeah.
But he also understands the importance of, the foundation, the university, the convention, the associations, the whole family.
Yeah, I think there's something very deep here that maybe our podcast listeners can pick up on, that in the state of California, there is some uniqueness here that is so important that if you go back several decades, when church planters from Texas and Oklahoma and other places in America were coming to California to plant churches, they came here and did a good job. They were pioneers, and they planted many churches, and they got things off to a great start. But there came a point where they missed a generation. They did not know how to connect with some California hippies, we'll call them, the Jesus movement, the surfer dudes, and those kind of folks. And we know that story. There's been movies made on that story, some churches that God had here on the West Coast did a better job, because they were more native-born churches. But the Southern Baptists self-corrected. We figured that out. And it came through our local churches discipling. It came through places like CBU and Gateway. And we started raising up a generation or two of native-born church leaders, such as Adam Grossa, who's now sitting at the highest position. Think of the difference that it's making today. I think the Southern Baptists are the greatest thing going in the state of California.
Well, I mean, just think of some of the pastors that have graduated from Cal Baptist, from the BAT program, right?
Yeah.
Someone like a Josh De La Rosa.
Yes.
That's doing an amazing job, right, in the Inland Empire. Matt Brown, Jim Jackson. These pastors that, they're not Greg Laurie. I mean, Matt Brown is doing pretty awesome work, right? Sandals is amazing. But these are the guys that have come out of programs that have been the brainchild of pastors that have been doing work here in California. And then they went to the university worked with them. The university raised these guys. They send them out. They're doing an amazing work. And this is just a couple of guys that we talk about. They're all over the place.
I think of Victor Kayasarissabant.
Yeah.
The stuff I've sat down and learned at his feet, just learning how to reach different cultures and ethnicities.
Sure.
It has been mind-blowing. I spent years in Bible college and seminary and didn't learn the things he was teaching us. And there's guys like him all across the state.
Right. No, absolutely. And they're homegrown. And I mean, as much as I appreciate, the guys that come from Louisiana and have funny accents like you, Jason, but the Wills and all those guys that come from other states, they come and supplement. Right? They come and supplement the work that is being done in California. But really, the California leaders are rising up, as they should, because the churches have been faithful in making disciples as we've worked together.
I can tell you from a personal standpoint, since you brought it up, that I was one of those guys that came here from the outside. But I was asked to come. There was a director of missions who asked me to come.
Right.
And he said, we need help. We don't have enough planters. Right. And I came. And I remember coming and then calling all my friends back on the East Coast saying, get over here. We need your... But nowadays, I don't do that as much.
Yeah.
Things have radically changed in the last 25 years to where now we are looking inside our own local churches and we're seeing that new crop of leaders, men and women from the north to the south of every ethnicity and culture that are rising up, stepping up, and they can stay in our state.
Right.
We have a tremendous set of institutions here with CBU and Gateway, and there's others. I mean, there's a lot of other Christian institutions that are now springing up in our churches, as well as our local churches themselves are reproducing, church planting, sponsoring new work. And the CSBC is, I think, doing things that I know for a fact 25 years ago they were not doing, and everybody's feeling that.
So can I ask, like, just what listening to you guys kind of almost reminisce a little bit about the days gone by, but we're saying this year has been sort of a pivotal year. You think, as we look back, like we're seeing the fruit now of all of the work that was sown earlier.
Here's another example. I remember, about 10, 13 years ago. We were at state convention. Most people there were white-haired, wrinkled. And I remember Dr. Price getting up there and saying, if things don't change, we're going to die.
Yeah.
You know how many kids had to be taken care of at this year at the state convention?
I know.
Right? Our highest attended annual meeting in decades, probably.
Oh, yeah.
And tons of young people, children. And here's the thing. We're not doing it at CSBC. We're facilitating it through pastors so that there's a place for these young pastors to meet. There's a place for our people to be reached the next generation. And it's really neat to see how this year we continue to see a momentum of younger people. Even the people that have come on our board, that have been put on our board, they're younger people. We're being very intentional, and I've seen this intentionality in committees and in boards of a younger generation being brought in, and let's not miss that generation coming
I agree
up.
with you. Now, I know, speaking of the years gone by, the younger pastors would look to other networks and collectives for resources, for help, for partnerships, and they had to do so out of necessity. Southern Baptists, like you said, were not united, and they didn't have a good system in which you could join that system and get results from it and want to be part of it. But I'm telling you, things have radically changed under your leadership. There has been, it's almost like there was a sleeping giant, and you've awakened this giant, and now it's active, and everybody notices it, and everybody wants to be in on it because it works.
Sure.
We had all the parts there.
Sure.
They just weren't connected.
Sure. And again, we were not together. We were not together, and that's one of the things that I realized before I got placed in this role was that there was a great opportunity, and we are seeing the flourishing of that opportunity that God, had opened my eyes to, and had put in my heart. Like I can help us get there, right?
Yeah.
If I do what God wants me to do, I can help us get there. The challenge is always to keep that unity, right? And so we always get challenges. There's a lot of things that could separate us, but remaining focused. And that's where I thank God for key pastors in our state, our board members, directors of missions, our entity heads, people that are leading in different places of the state. Again, remaining focused, focus on the togetherness, focus on the Great Commission work, and not chasing rabbits,
I think that's been one of the big things I've seen this past year is your ability to create collaboration. So many times leaders of large organizations like the CSBC, there's a pressure on that leader, like an executive director, to come up with this brilliant slogan or this vision, and it almost becomes like a program that he created, in his study somewhere, and it waves a banner, and everybody has to get on board with him. I've watched you lead in a total different way. That is, things like listening sessions and so forth. You went around and you spend so much time listening to the leaders that God has across the state, hearing what their passion is and what they're wanting to do and what they can bring to the table. And somehow you create these collaborations to where people are buying into what's going on, and you don't have to sell them on it because it's actually their ideas.
It is their ideas, right? I mean, and we've been a part of the task force that's been meeting after the listening sessions, and we're getting ready next year to roll out some, really exciting things. I mean, Jason and I, we were talking about earlier about how, we're sold out to these things.
Yes.
We're passionately sold out to these things. We believe that God is calling us to do some things in the next decade that, we'll sacrifice so much because this is a God thing.
Yes.
And it's not a Pete thing. It's a God thing.
It's a God thing.
And for us, for me, this year, I have just seen so many people jump on, not on a bandwagon, but to jump on a understanding of what we can do together.
It's a mission.
Yes, the mission.
Yeah.
As we serve our Lord based on the calling that He's given us.
Well, Will always says people want to be part of one winning team.
Right.
And
and it feels like a team.
Yeah.
And we are winning.
And we are winning.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. When you begin to see, baptism numbers grow in the state, right? And I truly believe, that unless another pandemic hits and we all have to stay at home and can't baptize, I believe that the numbers, as we continue to report true numbers, right, numbers that are being brought to us, that we're going to continue to see baptisms grow in our state.
Sounds like a plug to fill out your ACP, everybody.
It really is. Yes, fill out that annual church profile, pastor, church administrator, whoever does that for your church. Because if we just had 50% of our churches reporting, man, we could really celebrate some amazing things that happen. Because, some churches just forget to fill out that report. But we're going to be calling people, we're going to be encouraging people, fill them out, not so that we can say, look at what we've done, but we can say, look at what God has done. And so, again, it's another thing that we've done to this year, even through the theme of our annual meeting, right? Together for His glory.
Right.
Not for our glory, but for God's glory. And it's not so that they can say, look at what Pete's done, because Pete doesn't do much other than travel all over the place and love people and eat with people and then listen to people. I try to listen to people. It's really what God is doing in our midst. Yep. Yeah. And we talk about these big numbers, but really it's our small churches that are producing 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's everyone.
Yeah.
And so
it always has been the
always,
backbone.
Yes. That's who we are as Southern Baptists. And actually it tends to be quite healthy at many, many levels. Mm-hmm. And so it's just exciting to be able to see the hand of God with every congregation, with every pastor, with every family that's coming to faith, just to see those things. See, I served as a pastor for 17 years. The joys came in walking.
That's why
with
you have all those gray hairs.
Yeah. It takes one to know one, right? To walk with somebody from sharing the gospel with them and then discipling them to baptizing them to making them members of the church. That was exciting to me back in the day. It still is. Yeah. I don't get a chance to do that at this level. So what do I celebrate is the fact that our churches are doing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I celebrate that God is allowing our churches to continue to do that kind of work. And we get to see everyone's collective numbers together and we celebrate that.
Right.
It's not about a state convention. It's about the family together and how God is blessing that family. So I see the blessings of God, and I just say, let's continue to count the blessings together.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, this is not how I thought this was going to go, but this was kind of a fun and interesting and educational kind of look back. So we will do a looking forward, right?
Sure.
Podcast
Yeah,
looking
that's
forward
got to come soon. Yes.
back in January.
Yes.
So we have our final end of the year funny story, right?
Yes. I think it might be one of the funniest ones that we've had all year.
I think you think it's
Is
the
this the
funniest
story
one.
where he took us all out to eat?
Yes. So I don't know if everybody knows, but I have been doing ministry with Pete and Annabella for decades now. Like we really sort of came up together, speaking of generational leadership,
Yep.
right? And so this has not been my first go around with the Chinese food shenanigans, but every time we go out and we have fortune cookies, Pete has this tradition that he makes us all go around the table and add, what is it, Pete?
So before you read the fortune cookie, you have to add to the front of it and you say,
Prepare yourself,
yes,
everybody.
Yes. Yeah. In the restroom.
Yeah.
So you say in the restroom and then you read the fortune cookie. All right, Sarah.
So everyone's going around the table because we were at
Right.
this after this vision meeting that we had. I couldn't even read mine out loud because it was too on the nose. I had to give it to Jason to read.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So
You remember what it said?
So it read in the restroom.
Follow your gut.
Yeah, follow your gut.
I mean, that was about as good as it gets, I think.
Yeah, but there are so many. I mean,
There really are.
I just pulled a couple really quick just to kind of refresh kind of what it works like, right? And it
Yeah.
said in the restroom. Here's what the fortune cookie said: enjoy yourself while you can.
I think that's for all the dads.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them that I just encourage you as you're sitting around Chinese food one day
Yeah.
and the fortune cookie comes around.
Think of Pete and in the
Yeah,
restroom.
don't go play the numbers on the back. Just think of in the restroom and watch.
Try to read your fortune.
People are going to be looking at your. They were looking at us like we were weird, right?
I mean, you didn't invent that, right?
No, I don't remember who I learned it from. I mean, some people really get like, they go off,
Lunch-
with what they put in the front, but this one's safe in the restroom. Everybody goes to the restroom.
The reality is going out to eat with Pete is always a
I know.
blast.
Right.
Most of the time he's taking me to some hole in the wall Mexican place, and then he orders the hottest food, even the soup. I mean, I'm not talking about temperature hot. I'm talking about
Spicy.
pepper hot,
There you
spicy.
You're
And
from Louisiana.
it's a different kind of spice.
Oh, okay.
And look, this guy, I sit there and watch him, and he's like, "Oh, this is so good," and he's literally got
That's right.
sweat
You have to
pouring
sweat.
down his.
That's how you know
brow.
it's good
And
until
I'm
your
like,
nose starts beating up.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? These guys.
Tis the season for Chinese food, everybody. Christmas and New Year's. So.
Hey, are those tamales that hot?
Those tamales are not that hot.
No?
No. We make them mild because the kids have to be able to eat them.
Oh,
But,
okay.
yeah.
Jason's trying to angle for some of the Ramirez family tamales, just so everybody knows.
Maybe an Amazon package of tamales.
There you go.
It's
Yeah.
been a great year. Thank you guys for all that you do to help hold this podcast up week after week, every other week.
Thank
been
you guys.
fun.
Thank you guys. You guys have a wonderful Christmas. All right.
And a great
You
new
too.
year,
Yes,
everybody.
yes.
And as always, we have an email address, podcast@csbc.com. Still waiting for that story on Jason Robertson. Stacy. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Adios.